Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch was one of the most recognizable names in American NASCAR history. Known for his aggressive driving style, emotional personality, and fierce competitiveness, Busch became one of the defining figures of modern stock car racing. For more than 2 decades, his presence helped shape NASCAR culture across America, especially among longtime racing fans who grew up watching loud Sunday races filled with rivalries, speed, and controversy. Born on May 2, 1985 inches, Las Vegas, Nevada, Kyle Busch began racing at a young age alongside his older brother, Kurt Busch. His talent quickly became obvious. By his teenage years, he was already dominating local racing circuits and attracting national attention. Busch made his NASCAR debut in the early 2000s and rapidly became known as one of the sport's most naturally gifted drivers. His aggressive style behind the wheel made him both admired and criticized throughout his career. Busch achieved enormous success across NASCAR's top divisions. He collected dozens of victories in the NASCAR Cup Series and became a 2-time Cup Series champion. His dominance on the track made him one of the winningest drivers of his generation. Fans either loved his confidence or hated his attitude, but almost nobody ignored him. That strong reaction became part of what made Kyle Busch such an important figure in American motorsports. Throughout the peak years of his career, Busch became a regular face of NASCAR weekends across the United States. Packed grandstands watched him battle rivals at tracks like Daytona, Talladega, and Bristol. His emotional interviews, heated rivalries, and fearless driving style helped keep NASCAR exciting during an era when the sport was changing rapidly. Even critics admitted that races felt bigger whenever Kyle Busch was involved. Outside the track, Busch also built a reputation as a devoted family man and team owner. Together with his wife Samantha, he became involved in charity work and various NASCAR community projects. Despite his tough public image, many people within racing respected his work ethic and dedication to the sport. In his later years, Busch remained one of NASCAR's most recognizable veterans, while the sport slowly transitioned into a newer generation. For many longtime fans, he represented an older version of NASCAR that felt louder, rougher, and more emotional. His presence reminded people of a time when racing personalities felt more authentic and less controlled by modern media. When news of his passing spread, tributes immediately poured in from across the racing world. NASCAR drivers, sports commentators, and longtime fans shared memories of his greatest moments on the track. Many remembered not only his victories, but the intensity and emotion he brought to every race he entered. Kyle Busch leaves behind a legacy that extends far beyond statistics and championships. He helped define an era of American motorsports that millions of fans will never forget. For longtime NASCAR audiences across America, his passing feels like the end of another unforgettable chapter in racing history. Robert Duvall. Robert Duvall was one of the last remaining symbols of classic American cinema. Known for his calm screen presence, powerful performances, and quiet masculinity, Duvall built a career that lasted for more than 6 decades in Hollywood. To generations of Americans, he was more than just an actor. He represented an older era of filmmaking when performances felt natural, serious, and unforgettable. Born on January 5, 1931 inches, San Diego, California, Duvall was raised in a military family before eventually studying acting in New York alongside future legends like Dustin Hoffman and Gene Hackman. During the early years of his career, he appeared in television programs and small film roles before gaining national attention in the 1960s. His breakthrough came in 1962 when he portrayed Boo Radley in To Kill a Mockingbird. Although the role contained very little dialogue, Duvall's performance immediately stood out and helped establish him as a serious actor in Hollywood. Over the following decades, he became known for playing strong, complicated American characters in some of the most important films ever made. Duvall reached legendary status during the 1970s with unforgettable performances in The Godfather Part 2, and Apocalypse Now. His portrayal of Tom Hagen in The Godfather became one of the most respected performances in cinema history. In Apocalypse Now, his role as Lieutenant Colonel Kilgore produced one of the most famous lines in film history, and helped cement his reputation as one of America's greatest actors. Throughout his long career, Duvall earned multiple Academy Award nominations and won the Oscar for Tender Mercies in 1983. He also starred in films such as The Great Santini, Lonesome Dove, Open Range, and The Apostle. His performances often reflected traditional American values such as toughness, discipline, independence, and quiet emotional strength. Unlike many Hollywood celebrities, Duvall maintained a more private lifestyle away from constant media attention. As the years passed, Duvall slowly became one of the last living connections to the golden generations of American cinema. Older audiences continued to admire him because he represented a style of acting that felt authentic and timeless. His voice, his calm delivery, and his screen presence reminded many Americans of an older Hollywood that no longer exists in the same way today. When news of his passing spread, tributes immediately arrived from actors, directors, and film fans across the country. Many praised not only his legendary performances, but also the dignity and professionalism he carried throughout his life. Clips from The Godfather and Apocalypse now once again filled television screens and social media pages as Americans remembered the roles that helped define generations of cinema. Robert Duvall leaves behind one of the greatest legacies in American film history. His work influenced actors for decades and helped shape some of the most iconic movies ever produced in Hollywood. For millions of Americans, his passing feels like the loss of another important piece of old Hollywood and another reminder that the golden age of American cinema is slowly fading away. James Van Der Beek. James Van Der Beek became one of the most recognizable television faces of late 1990s America. Best known for his role as Dawson Leary in Dawson's Creek, he represented a generation of young Americans growing up during a very different era of television. Long before streaming services and social media changed entertainment forever, millions of teenagers and families across America watched his performances every week on network television. Born on March 8, 1977 inches, Cheshire, Connecticut, Van Der Beek developed an interest in acting at a young age and eventually moved into television and film during the 1990s. His breakthrough arrived in 1998 when he was cast in Dawson's Creek, a drama series that quickly became one of the defining shows of its generation. His role as Dawson Leary turned him into a national television star almost overnight. At the height of the show's popularity, Dawson's Creek became deeply connected to American youth culture. The series captured the emotions, relationships, and struggles of young people entering adulthood at the end of the 20th century. Van Der Beek's performance helped make the show successful with audiences across the country, especially teenagers who saw parts of themselves reflected in the characters and stories. Outside television, Van Der Beek also appeared in films such as Varsity Blues, which became another major cultural moment for young Americans during the late 1990s. His role in the football drama helped strengthen his image as one of the most recognizable young actors of the era. During those years, his face regularly appeared on television screens, magazine covers, and entertainment programs throughout the United States. As entertainment changed during the 2000s, Van Der Beek continued acting in television and film while also embracing more comedic and self-aware roles later in his career. Many fans appreciated his willingness to laugh at his earlier fame while remaining connected to the audience that first supported him decades earlier. Even years after Dawson's Creek ended, millions of Americans still associated him with memories of their youth and a simpler period of television history. In later years, Van Der Beek focused more on family life while continuing occasional acting projects and public appearances. For many longtime viewers, he remained strongly tied to the emotional nostalgia of the late 1990s and early 2000s. His career reminded audiences of a time before streaming platforms completely transformed the entertainment industry. When news of his passing spread, many fans reacted with deep sadness online. Old clips from Dawson's Creek immediately resurfaced across social media as viewers remembered growing up alongside the series. For countless Americans now entering middle age, the news felt personal because his work had been part of their own teenage years and memories. James Van Der Beek leaves behind a lasting legacy in American television history. His performances helped define an important generation of youth entertainment and connected with millions of viewers across the country. For many Americans, his passing feels like the loss of another familiar face from a version of television and America that no longer exists today. Ted Turner. Ted Turner was one of the most influential figures in the history of American television. As the founder of CNN and a pioneer of 24-hour news broadcasting, Turner helped permanently change the way Americans received information. For decades, his networks became part of everyday life across the country, especially during major national events, breaking news moments, and historic world crises. Born on November 19, 1938 inches, Cincinnati, Ohio, Turner was raised in a business family before eventually taking control of his father's billboard company at a young age. His ambition quickly expanded far beyond advertising. During the 1970s and 1980s, Turner entered the television industry and began building what would eventually become one of the most powerful media empires in America. His biggest breakthrough came in 1980 with the launch of CNN. At the time, many critics believed a 24-hour news channel would fail because Americans were not expected to watch news all day long. Turner ignored the criticism and continued pushing forward. CNN eventually transformed global broadcasting forever. Major events such as wars, presidential elections, natural disasters, and international crises were suddenly being covered live around the clock inside millions of American homes. Beyond CNN, Turner also helped create networks such as TBS and TNT while becoming heavily involved in professional sports through ownership of the Atlanta Braves and Atlanta Hawks. His larger-than-life personality, bold business decisions, and willingness to take risks made him one of the most recognizable media figures in the United States during the 1980s and 1990s. Turner became known not only for his success, but also for his outspoken personality and unpredictable public image. Unlike many corporate executives, he often appeared emotional, direct, and highly personal during interviews. That authenticity helped many Americans connect with him even when his ideas created controversy. For millions of viewers, Ted Turner represented a generation of businessmen who built massive companies through instinct risk-taking and relentless ambition rather than polished corporate branding. As technology and media changed over the years, Turner slowly stepped away from the center of the television industry he helped create. Streaming platforms, smartphones, and social media transformed how Americans consumed information. Yet older audiences still remembered a time when CNN felt revolutionary and Ted Turner's vision completely changed the television landscape. When news of his passing spread, tributes arrived from journalists, broadcasters, athletes, and political figures around the world. Many praised his impact on journalism and modern media while reflecting on how dramatically he changed American television history. Across social media and television networks, Americans once again revisited the moments when CNN first became part of everyday life. Ted Turner leaves behind a legacy that extends far beyond business success. He helped reshape American media and permanently changed how the world experiences news and live events. For millions of Americans who grew up watching television during the final decades of the 20th century, his passing feels like the loss of another major figure from an older and very different America. One day, without warning, America suddenly realizes that the people who once felt permanent are slowly disappearing. The actors who filled old movie theaters, the athletes who dominated Sunday television, the television personalities who once felt larger than life. One by one, those familiar voices begin to fade away, leaving behind only old interviews, old photographs, and memories tied to another era of American life. Kyle Busch represented the loud spirit of old NASCAR and a version of sports that felt raw and emotional. Robert Duvall carried the quiet strength of classic American cinema for more than half a century. James Van Der Beek reminded an entire generation of what television once felt like before the world changed forever. Ted Turner transformed how millions of Americans experienced news and television itself. Each of them belonged to a different part of American culture, but together they represented something much larger than fame. They represented memories, different decades, different generations, different moments in American life that can never truly be repeated again. And maybe that is the hardest part about getting older. You slowly realize that the people who helped shape your childhood, your weekends, your favorite movies, and your favorite television moments are disappearing one by one. Tonight, America says goodbye to 4 more legends. And for millions of people watching tonight, it feels like saying goodbye to a small part of the past itself. If one of these legends meant something to you, share your memories in the comments below.